sometimes we think of essay structure as working like this. We have an introduction where we say what we're going to say, we have a body where we say it, we have the conclusion where we say what we just said. This is a little bit problematic when it comes to the conclusion, because if you've written a particularly short essay and then at the end you simply summarize exactly what you said, your reader is going to feel like they just read the same thing exactly repeated twice, and it's going to feel very redundant. If for you the conclusion is just a throwaway summary paragraph, I would suggest that instead you think of it as being the place where you say why your point matters. Certainly, it's okay to remind your reader of the point you've made. The conclusion is not the place where you go off on some wild tangent and totally leave your point behind entirely. But in addition to reminding your reader of the point you made, you've got to do a little more. You've got to answer the so what question. So you've read this fake story, think about what real ideas you can offer your reader from it. You can take those ideas and tie them to something just slightly larger. And if you're reading a book like 1984, a great question to answer would be, how do we avoid a future like the one in the book? In my essay, I've talked about how Winston is physically and mentally unhealthy, and then he's much healthier after he develops a relationship with someone. And I've looked at a little bit of research that supports the idea that relationships make us healthier. In my conclusion, I want to suggest some ways for how we can develop better relationships. And in my reading, I saw a couple things that talked about what the government could do. But of course, I don't think the government's going to solve the problem with my friends or lack of friends. So I need to think about what I individually need to do. And the fact of the matter is, it takes a little time and effort to maintain friendships with people. You have to go out of your way to find time to meet with them and to call them. And if that's something that I need to be reminded of, that that's worth doing, that maybe my reader does as well. Okay, so here's what I've got. Imagining the terrible futures presented in dystopian literature ought to give us the chance to course correct. Because Americans' levels of loneliness are at an all-time high, now is a great time for a course correction. Government interference drives people apart in 1984, but our government can play a role in bringing people together by funding community spaces like parks that allow people to come together. And you know what? I've repeated together twice. That sounds like crap. I gotta wordsmith that. But guys, that is why you read out loud, because then you catch the little awkward moments there. But I'm gonna keep going right now for the sake of finishing this video. Or by subsidizing co-housing communities with shared space for dining and recreation. However, if there's one point that 1984 emphasizes, it's that citizens shouldn't rely on the government to provide a perfect world for them. Instead, just as Winston and Julia do, we need to individually seek out personal connections to enrich our lives, minus the adultery, of course. Maintaining strong friendships takes work, even when the government isn't actively trying to oppose them. But relationships are worth the effort. Whether in 2021 or 1984, people are better off when they're connected to other people. Now, is that brilliant? Nah, but you know what? It's good enough for now. Once you've written your conclusion, you're almost done, but you're not quite done. You need to go back through this writing at least twice. First time through, I would suggest glancing over the checklist at the end of the paper, and as you read, just making sure you have all the parts. It helps too to read out loud, because that kind of slows you down and makes it easier for you to see errors or places where the language is a little bit clunky, but make sure the big stuff is in place. Then go back one time more. Again, any little sentence tweaks you need to do them. Think about punctuation, apostrophes, capital letters, spelling, there versus there. It's the stuff that it takes to make the writing really polished. After you've gone through it twice, you should be good to go. Go ahead and hit submit, and then breathe a big sigh of relief and go watch some Netflix.